this morning, Hannah and Craig, we are going to talk about retirement saving, funding for retirement. So the latest stats show that only 36% of South Africans have a retirement fund, and only 7% of South Africans feel ready for retirement, which means that there's a lot of people out there that are feeling quite anxious about their retirement savings. So let's start with the obvious question, which is, how do I know if I've got enough money for retirement?
Yeah, Sue, I think that's probably the question we get the most frequently, you know, and it's different for everyone. I think the key issue here is that each person's plan is unique to them. So the role that we fulfill is just to help people co-create their plan, taking into consideration what their goals and objectives might be in retirement. So they really need to help us draw the picture of what their retirement looks like for them. So taking into account what assets and liabilities they have, how those assets are invested, and then looking at working towards drawing up a plan for them at the end of the day.
So we're obviously in the business of developing retirement plans for people. So say, for instance, a new client comes to you today. What does that process of retirement planning look like when you interact with that client? How do you go about it?
A lot of people start with the money and they think it's about the money, but money is actually just the enabler. It's about the people. It's about making sure that right up front we've established a lifestyle that leads to fulfillment and content. So, you know, there's no point in putting together a plan that compromises everything in your life. You know, we don't want to have a situation where clients are looking at focusing on generating wealth to the detriment of their health, their lifestyle, their relationships. So it's really by starting with the end in mind. What would that ideal lifestyle look like? And then working back from there, taking into account the assets that people have, their long-term plans, but always focusing on ensuring that they are living a fulfilled life in the process, not aiming to only achieve that at the end of the day. It should be an ongoing process. So it's really about trying to help people strike and find that balance between saving now and living now, so that one can continue living a similar lifestyle in retirement without making compromises now that end up compromising the current lifestyle too badly.
So saving for retirement, Hannah, it can be quite complex, because for a lot of people it's still 20, 30, 40 years away, and there's a lot of moving parts obviously in a retirement plan. So how do you, when you are developing a plan for a client, how do you take into account things like the impact of inflation, medical increases, longevity, because that's all going to impact on the ultimate plan that you present or that you develop for your client?
So we use a model and we aim to provide income until your age 100 to compensate for longevity. The model assumes that your monthly income increases annually in line with inflation each year. But historically, we know that medical costs increase by inflation plus 3 to 4% each year. So how do we keep up with this increasing medical costs is we can actually strip that out in the model and account for those increasing medical costs to structure your retirement more accurately to ensure that you do not run out of money the later ends of your retirement at the back end towards age 100.
So you're developing this comprehensive retirement plan for a client, and you do all the numbers, you crunch the numbers, you use your assumptions, you build in your assumptions for inflation, for medical costs, you assume that they live till 100, and you present to the client, and the bad news is they haven't got enough to retire. What is your advice to the client?
So there are a few levers we can pull here. So we can delay retirement, which is quite an obvious one, which just means that there are less years that you would need to draw an income for. We can save more. So leading up to retirement, we could review your budget and see if there's any unnecessary costs that we could cut in order to contribute more towards your retirement funds. We could spend less. This is quite extreme, but if we're already in retirement, there might be a case where you would need to reduce your spending. And then we can target higher returns. So this one needs to be carefully undertaken, as it could lead to sleepless nights for the client.
Sort of the eat well, sleep well test
Yes,
is what we
yes.
call it in our industry. Yeah.
Yes.
Craig?
Yeah, and then typically, just to add on to what Hannah was saying, the earlier we can get involved in this process, the easier it is, because it might mean that a whole bunch of small changes that we make compound and lead to quite a big difference overall. So it really begins by looking at the budget and saying, well, what is it that we can trim back on? Are we wasting money on insurance, for example? Very often the cover that people bought 15 years ago was appropriate, but now they may find that they're overinsured. So we can redirect that money a bit more appropriately. Often people are saving in the incorrect vehicles, leaving tax on the table, which is a big issue of concern. Other areas are things like the medical aid plan that they choose. And then also the issue of debt. Often you find people are saving money while they're in debt, just to cut out the middleman, i.e. the bank. That can make quite a significant difference over time. So it's really about putting all of these little factors together over a long period of time that has the benefit of compounding and improving one's situation quite immeasurably over time.
So I think it's safe to say for anyone out there wanting to save for retirement that the sooner you start, the better. And it's an ongoing process. So it's not a something that you do once off and then think you're ready for retirement. That it's something that you need to really work at throughout your life.
Absolutely. It's an ongoing process. It's something that you will do from the day you earn your first paycheck until the day that you're no longer here. Every decision you make is important to the long-term process. And that's why a big part of our role in this process is to make sure that we help clients make better decisions. It's about better decisions. It's about making decisions that you won't regret down the line. We want to find ourselves in a position when clients look back, they say that every decision they're made with enough information to not have regret and not having made the wrong call. So it's a big part of what we do.